The year 2024 is when the film opens, where several nations throughout the world are on fire. In actuality, battles are raging all over the world right now. Everyone is engaged in conflict with one another. Later on in the narrative, the focus moves to 1988, the past. Thomas was the name of the detective police officer we see. He and his companion visit a location to determine the scene of an accident, where the driver had passed away. 3 holes were found in the girl's neck when they examined it. In the same way, 2 more people perished in this city. This implies that they had holes in their necks as well. When Thomas and his buddy visit the lab later, the doctor informs them that all 3 of them passed away for the same cause. You're accurate. The holes in their necks have caused them to pass away. However, we are still unable to determine how they were slain and with what weapon they were assaulted. Thomas finds out later that there is another female being attacked in the club. But she's still living, not dead. Thus, Thomas and his colleague head to the club. A detective who happened to be Thomas's wife's brother was already present. They start looking into the girl who was beaten. The girl told them that I was attacked by another female and was quite afraid and anxious. There was blood on her hand and she had on a blue hooded jacket. She had neckache as she was telling them about it. She suffers till she passes away from excruciating anguish. They inspect and discover that her neck bears the same markings. They deduce from this that the same girl who murdered 3 people today also kills her. Thus, everyone donning a blue hoodie jacket was taken into custody. And look into the time when Thomas was in the car with his friend. A blue hoodie-wearing girl was sprinting. When she sees them, she covers her face and takes off running. Thomas and his friend take off after her. Running, she arrives at the train station. Her partner, Thomas, has seen her. He sneaks over and grabs her. But she manages to get away and strikes him with a board. One of his foot fractures as a result. Then Thomas arrives there as well and holds the girl in the hoodie at gunpoint. It is here that we discover her name is Rhea. She informs Thomas that his wife is expecting a child today. She will regrettably pass away after giving birth to a daughter. She is attacked by Thomas to get her to trust him. Thomas grabbed her feet as they began to struggle. However, Rhea deftly bound him with his own shackle. Thomas obtains the weapon she used to murder everyone as she is leaving. He swings this weapon towards Rhea's leg. She therefore experiences disequilibrium. She was carried off by train when it struck her. She passed away. When he kills her, Thomas exhales peacefully, due to the fact that he resolved this situation. Upon his return, he discovers that his spouse has been admitted to the hospital, as she is due to give birth to a child today. Thomas is told he has been blessed with a daughter as soon as he enters the hospital. Rhea, the girl wearing the hoodie, informed him of this. He doesn't give it much thought since he thinks it may just be a coincidence. Then a policeman arrives and informs Thomas that Rhea, the deceased girl, had a gunshot discovered in her arm after examining her corpse. It indicates that she has been shot, but Thomas ignores it. He was overjoyed since his daughter was born today. Afterwards, a somber doctor arrives and informs Thomas that your wife's condition worsens throughout all of that. We regret to inform you that although we were able to preserve your daughter, your wife passed away. And Thomas was shattered knowing this. He was both startled and saddened. Thomas has also heard Rhea say this. This indicates that she was discussing Thomas's future with him. Thomas is always asking himself, how did she know that? This continues for several years, but Thomas never receives his response. Today is Thomas's daughter's 9th birthday. She has grown up. Since his wife passed away on this day, today was her birthday. He takes his daughter to his wife's grave, where flowers had already been placed by someone. He believes that this was done by his wife's brother or by his detective buddy. When Thomas calls, none of them has retained these flowers. He starts to wonder who has held on to these flowers. Then he gets a call telling him that someone has killed someone in the city. that is carried out in the same manner as the 1988 murders of the 4 victims. Thomas visits the scene of the collision to review the video footage, where he spots a girl wearing a blue sweatshirt who appears to be Rhea. Thomas begins to think that she passed away 9 years ago. Everyone tells him that it's possible the murderer wore the blue sweatshirt on purpose to divert our attention. Thomas accessed Rhea's 9-year-old file because he was unsure. A key he discovers in her suitcase. He hands it over to his partner, the police, for inspection. Then Thomas finds out that there is another female killed at the airport. The girl has the same holes in her neck as he walks with his partner. Thomas deduces from this that the killer, whomever he is, kills others in the same way. That is akin to the killings that took place 9 years prior. He also finds out that the deceased had a writer's book with him. And the same book was with everyone who was killed. He has a lot of questions in his head as a result. But the solutions eluded him. It turns out that the key Thomas provided for verification is actually an aircraft key. It was created a year ago. Thomas becomes more anxious after learning this. What was this key doing with Rhea having this key 9 years ago if this plane was manufactured a year ago? Then, after every year when there is a red moon, or lunar eclipse, a scientist who was also a doctor arrives to notify Thomas. There comes a point in time when we can go beyond that. When we travel, we can journey back in time. I have also created a machine for that purpose. Thomas and his friends don't really listen to him since they think his remarks are meaningless. And the doctor, devoid of hope, follows. Thomas arrives at the location of the plane with his partner, whose key he possesses. After he leaves alone, Rhea passes in front of him. She also aims her revolver at him. When Thomas saw her, he was stunned. How is she still alive after she died right in front of him? Her age hasn't increased either. Rhea was ready to tell Thomas something at the gunpoint when Thomas's friend entered. She unintentionally fires the pistol as she turns around. Consequently, Thomas's friend passed away. Thomas is forced onto the aircraft by Rhea as the cops arrive. She tells Thomas that he'll be surprised to find me alive while they're in the air. I actually go across time to arrive in the past. To fix the future time, I do this. Everything will be ruined and altered in the future if I don't take this action. I can only go back in time on the night of the lunar eclipse. Thomas believes that the doctor told him this similar hypothesis some time ago. Prior to continuing, Rhea pushed Thomas, and he succeeded in emerging from the water in some way. When the police arrive to conduct an investigation the following morning, they discover the fragments of the plane there. It indicates a plane accident for them. However, Rhea's whereabouts are unknown. Thomas claims to have spoken with Rhea, the girl, to everyone. She uses time travel to arrive in the past. Clearly, though, nobody finds him credible. Later on, the scenario from 2006 is shown. Thus, 9 years have elapsed. Thomas's life is now completely different. He is no longer employed by the police. He reads about lunar eclipses every time. He hasn't seen the scientific doctor in a while because his daughter moved home with her mother's brother when she grew older. Thomas now learns that in 1998, a murder was committed. There are no reports about it. He then visits the man's tomb, who was the writer. He examines his skeleton when he opens it. Additionally, he had holes in his neck, indicating that Rhea had also slain him. He therefore meets the writer's wife at his home. My spouse wrote a book and ran a group before he passed away. Thomas now finds out via a document that this book belongs to all the people who passed away between 1988 and 1997. In addition, the writer's body who is in charge of this organization was still living. Thomas travels to meet her after realizing this. Because he is aware that the writer's body will take the following turn. Because it's the night of the lunar eclipse, Rhea intends to murder her. He went there now, but it was already too late. The writer's acquaintance was murdered. Thomas then spots Rhea, who had been fleeing from the area. He fires at her, striking her hand with a bullet. After that, she flees, and Thomas follows after her. She goes to a large pipeline that is close to the coast. He finds the time travel device on the opposite side of the pipe when he gets there, which Rhea was sitting on, and that machine's water tank was full. There, the contraption vanishes in a flash of intense light. That she will use time travel to arrive in 1988, where he caused her to pass away. A gunshot that Thomas had fired at her in 2006 was discovered within her body. The policeman informed Thomas about the date of his daughter's birth in relation to this gunshot. Thomas has now a clear understanding of everything. When the cops arrive, he attempts to explain everything to everyone, but nobody finds him credible. In addition, he was taken into custody. According to the authorities, he had to have murdered the writer's body. Later, we find that it is 2015, meaning that 9 years have gone by. Thomas is still working to solve this peculiar problem. Since Rhea entered through the time machine, he has always lived outside the pipe. Additionally, this was the night of the moon eclipse, and he was confident Rhea would arrive, despite the fact that his daughter was expecting a baby today. But he intended to arrest Rhea, so he refrained from going. He has been looking for the answers to the questions he has been asking himself for years. The time machine finally appears and lands there. When Rhea emerges from the machine, Thomas aims his rifle at her and wants her to identify herself to him. She introduces herself as his granddaughter, Rhea. And since you asked me to, I'm going back in time. I set off on this quest in 2024, when devastation and flames envelop the earth. Because the author's book is to blame for the world's current state of conflict, which he penned in 1988. Because people's thoughts were greatly influenced after reading that book. People began to battle the globe because of their passion for their homeland. And the globe has turned into a war zone. The doctor scientist has created a time machine in order to rescue the planet, which, after 9 years, allowed passage only on the night of the lunar eclipse. Upon returning to the past, I am executing everyone responsible for starting the conflict, so that I might prevent the end of the world. Thomas notices that Rhea's hand has no gunshot marks. That is, following the conclusion of her assignment in 2015. When Thomas shoots her in the hand, she will arrive in 2006 via time travel. Then, in 1988 and then in 1997, she would pass away as a result of Thomas. Rhea hands over the bracelet he bought his wife. When Thomas realizes that he killed his granddaughter, he becomes concerned that she would perish as a result of his actions. Rhea is told to stop him until she travels back to 1988. Thus, I am unable to murder you and then return to the future. Rhea informs him that due to my one-sided journey, this is not feasible. I can only travel back in time once using time travel. There's no going back to my own time. Every time, after going back 9 years, I'll murder the author in 1988. As a result, he is unable to write the book from the beginning. Thomas is depressed now that he knows the truth. Afterwards, Rhea tells him to get to the hospital since she will be giving birth today. She continues, saying this. Thomas arrives at the hospital with his newly born grandchild. After traveling back 9 years each time, he is glad to see Rhea and her and murders everyone who would serve as the catalyst for the conflict. She finally got in touch with the author of this book. She murders the author before the book is finished because she believes it will be the catalyst for the conflict. Later on, the year 2024 is displayed to us as the future, where the devastation began to finish up. Since everything was well, no conflict has broken out. Rhea lost her life while trying to rescue the planet. However, she has accomplished her goal, and the movie ends. Subscribe for more videos like this. Turn on notifications and leave a like to help the channel out. Thank you for watching.